I grew up surrounded by a loving family and kind friends. Our household was as normal as any, neither excelling in intellect, sports, nor in looks, but I believe I was fortunate with the good relationships I had with people. Perhaps that's why I have a tendency to trust people too easily. For this reason, I've often been told that I'm naive or quirky since I was a child. This story is about an episode with my pitiful mother-in-law who took advantage of my newfound trust. My name is Michelle. I'm 31 years old and work in sales. Just last year, I married my husband Jake, and we're still enjoying the newlywed phase of our marriage. We often talk about wanting children soon, but for now, we're enjoying our life as a couple. Jake's parents live in their family home, about a 20-minute drive from our apartment. Once a month, my mother-in-law invites us over to have dinner at their place. My friends often ask me, "Isn't it tough to visit your in-laws once a month?" But it isn't really that bad because my father-in-law always keeps conversations lively, and my mother-in-law is kind. Also, my mother-in-law is the type who likes to handle the kitchen alone, so I'm always treated like a guest. As my father-in-law and Jake enjoy their evening drinks, I just need to sit and smile, and food is served. It's even more relaxing than being at our apartment, except for one thing, the food. As usual, Jake and I were invited by my mother-in-law to have dinner at their place. However, as I take a sip of the corn soup she prepared, an unintentional groan escapes my lips. "Michelle, what's wrong?" Jake, sitting next to me, looks at me with a puzzled expression. I've never had corn soup like this back at home, so it's quite refreshing, I manage to say, forcing a smile. "It's a delicious meal, really." "Thanks." I sneak a glance at Jake and my father-in-law, but they are sipping their soup with peaceful expressions. Is this the norm for home cooking here? Once again, I resignedly finish the overly salty soup. It seems like this household has a preference for strong flavors. My mother-in-law's cooking is so salty it tastes like seawater, and her desserts are so sweet it feels like I'm eating a lump of sugar. When I first tasted it, I was shocked, but everyone else in my in-laws' family finished their meals just like today, so I was stunned. If this is what they are accustomed to, out of respect, I finished everything, but it was so stimulating that it upset my stomach. I worry greatly about the health of my in-laws who regularly consume such strongly flavored food. I've been consulting with a dietitian friend and gathering brochures, but there's no way a new daughter-in-law could say, "Mill, your food is too strongly flavored. Please study this." By the way, the food I prepare at our apartment is always seasoned according to the recipe. Every day I ask Jake, "Is it delicious?" thinking he might find it bland. Each time he responds sweetly, "If it's made by you, Michelle, anything is delicious." But I couldn't help but doubt the sincerity of a person who grew up in a household with such strong flavors. Nonetheless, for the sake of Jake's health, I didn't waver and continued to cook with normal recipes. Also, there's one more thing that worries me. My mother-in-law tends to serve expired food sometimes. The rice in the bowl is so yellow and dry that I can't tell when it was cooked, and there are times when we are served spoiled fruit for dessert. I secretly avoided the inedible parts, but I couldn't help but worry that my in-laws would get stomachaches someday. There was even a time when the cookies she gave me, labeled for Michelle's snack, were about 6 months past their expiration date. That one time, my husband Carter said, "Mom, this is past its expiration date, isn't it?" My mother-in-law laughed it off, saying, "Oh dear, I must have been distracted," which was reassuring. However, it sent chills down my spine when a cookie identical to it slipped into the gifts she gave us during our next visit. I had seen this phenomenon before when my grandmother had become senile. What should I do? My mother-in-law is only in her 50s, so it's hard to imagine her forgetfulness is due to old age. the overly strong seasoning in my in-laws' meals, the possibility that my mother-in-law might be senile. I wanted to discuss both with my husband, but I was unable to do so out of fear of shocking him. Then one day, a small miracle happened to us as a couple. I had a life growing inside me. Am I finally going to be a dad? Will it be a boy, a girl? Every day my husband happily caresses my belly. When should we tell our parents? Should we wait until the pregnancy is stable? Well, we've only confirmed the heartbeat so far, but we might need their help if anything happens. So maybe we should tell them after the 3-month checkup, right? We'll see how things go then. Oh, I can't wait to tell everyone. I bet my mom will cry when she finds out she's going to have her first grandchild. He probably imagining my mother-in-law congratulating us with tears in her eyes makes my heart warm. Caught up in the long-awaited pregnancy, I had completely forgotten about everything else. It wasn't until the following weekend when I saw the soup at my in-laws' dinner table that I realized there was a serious problem. If I eat my mother-in-law's overly seasoned food, it could cause problems for the baby. The parenting books I had devoured since becoming pregnant all stated that high blood pressure and diabetes can affect the pregnancy and childbirth. Even if I'm fine with yellow rice or food that may be past its expiration date, it might affect the baby. The thought was so scary that I found it hard to take a bite. Oh, Michelle, you're not eating at all. I wonder if it doesn't suit your taste. Seeing my plate, my mother-in-law frowns. No, it's not like that. Michelle seems to be lacking appetite due to fatigue. My husband, thinking I had morning sickness, quickly covered for me. Is that so, Michelle? Is your work tough? You mustn't overwork yourself. I'm sorry. While my father-in-law kindly spoke to me, my mother-in-law's face remained stern. I felt guilty for leaving the food and for lying. Nevertheless, after everyone else had finished their meals, my mother-in-law served a large cookie along with after-dinner tea. At least eat something, it will surely heal your tired body. Thank you. What a kind person she is. I thought I should at least have the cookie, but recently some sweet foods have been causing heartburn, possibly due to morning sickness. When I looked to the side, my husband's cookie was bite-sized. I whispered to my husband, making sure it couldn't be heard in the kitchen where my mother-in-law was working. Hey Jake, can we swap cookies? Sure. I took my husband's cookie, which he willingly traded, and peeled off the wrapper. The best before date is also until tomorrow. With relief, I popped it into my mouth and washed it down with the tea. This cookie feels a bit hard. My husband, who had split the large cookie in half, made a curious face. And as he started to bring it to his mouth, "Stop, you ate?" My mother-in-law, returning from the kitchen, screamed. My heart involuntarily leaped at the sudden incident. My husband and I froze as she snatched the cookie. Why does Jake have his cookie? I gave it to Michelle, didn't I? It doesn't matter. I can eat it. You can't. The cookie is past its expiry date. At the unexpected bombshell, the room fell silent. In the chaos following my mother-in-law's revelation, I said, "So, the cookie was past its expiry date." I didn't realize because it wasn't written anywhere, which did nothing to help the situation. On the contrary, it only confirmed the malice in my mother-in-law's actions. So, you were trying to feed Michelle expired food without telling her? My husband, expressionless, inquired. My mother-in-law seemed to have grasped the situation and hurriedly tried to cover up. No, I know the expiry date has passed, but it's big and delicious, so I wanted Michelle to enjoy it. So why did you freak out when I was about to eat it? You knew it was dangerous, and you still handed it to my wife. Thief. That's not even. I finally understood. Realizing what was happening, chills ran down my spine. So, have you been intentionally giving me old food and expired sweets all this time, huh? "What's going on, Mom?" My father-in-law glared at my mother-in-law with an angry look. I didn't do it on purpose. I just thought it would be a waste if the old food wasn't eaten, so I wanted Michelle to have it. That's called doing it on purpose. There's no justification for feeding someone else something that's so old you can't eat it yourself. But it's a daughter-in-law. It's only natural for a daughter-in-law to eat the old stuff, right? Even when you married into my family, you never had to go through that. Yes, but my mother-in-law panicked, pounding on the table. As I watched her, I felt my heart grow cold. The mother-in-law I once loved was not there. I was extremely disappointed, thinking it was all an illusion. The disappointment multiplied because I thought she was a kind and good person. Now that I've realized I've been betrayed, all I see is a pathetic old witch making a mess of her hair and offering excuses. That being the case, something else is bothering me. Was it all due to my mother-in-law's malicious intent? Could it be even the overly seasoned food was a form of harassment? Huh? My father-in-law and husband's eyes bulged out. Ah, my mother-in-law had a look on her face that said she was in deep water. My husband, with a poker face, picked up the bowl of soup in front of me. "No, don't, Jake." Ignoring his mother's restraint, Jake took a mouthful of the soup. Then he spit it out forcefully. "Ick! Is this salt water?" Even my father-in-law made a bitter face as he tried the untouched stew. "I hadn't eaten, Michelle. Have you always finished meals like this?" "Yes, I thought this was how food was prepared in the family, since you and Jake were eating it." "That's because ours was normally seasoned." "I see, so that's how it was." Seeing me understanding the situation, Jake's shoulders drooped as if he had lost strength. "No, any way you look at it, this seasoning is weird, and you've been given expired stuff too." "Because I thought maybe Mill was going senile," said my mother-in-law. "Senile?" My mother-in-law's mouth twitched. She must be shocked to find out that the daughter-in-law she disliked so much and her son was pitying her, thinking she was a senile old woman in her 50s. What a pitiful person. "Michelle, you're kind. You put up with this, thinking that Mom was going senile." Jay comforted me with a gentle voice. "And to think that Mom... What nonsense. I can't even imagine how you could enjoy tormenting such a good daughter-in-law who trusted you completely." Jake and my father-in-law sighed. I never imagined that she would be such a person. That's why I consulted so many people. I was worried that her taste buds have gone awry or have started going senile in her 50s. "Huh, what do you mean by so many people?" Mill's complexion suddenly changed. It seemed she hadn't realized her misdeeds were spreading. "My parents, friends, people at work. Everyone was kind and gave me all kinds of materials and brochures. Look, I pulled out a bunch of brochures from my bag and piled them up. I never thought the efforts of carrying these around to discuss someday with Jake or my father-in-law would be of use in this way." "Wow, you were really worried, weren't you?" The men were deeply moved and folded the brochures. Of course, No's furious. What a terrible daughter-in-law. "I'm not sick. The one whose turbo is you." "Himph. Unlike you, Michelle has a pure heart. That's why she was worried. Reed, shut up, shut up. I never liked this daughter-in-law from the start." Finally, my mother-in-law, who had become completely defiant, pointed at me and stared with a face as fierce as a demon. "I can't believe that my precious boy Jake was stolen by such a spacey-looking woman. And you can't even realize that you're being harassed. Are you insane? I would have preferred a beautiful, accomplished wife who could make us proud. You were fortunate to have such a good girl as our daughter-in-law, and you say such foolish things. You've been deceived by this woman." What a fierce argument unfolded between my in-laws right in front of my eyes. So I really was hated by my mother-in-law. Even though I knew it, it's still hard to be verbally abused by someone I had trusted. Next to me, my husband Jake mumbled in a low voice, "Mom, why didn't you tell me before we got married?" "If you did, I would have." Jake ignored his mother's despairing look. "That's right, you're on my side, aren't you?" Her eyes seemed to say, "If I'd known, I would have cut ties with you." "Mom," Jake ignored his mother-in-law's despairing look, "that's why I married you, Michelle, because you are so pure-hearted. Don't worry, we won't come here again." Wait, Jake, I won't allow this. The one who's in the wrong is you, Mom." Jake's father-in-law turned to him expectantly. "That's right, you're on my side, aren't you?" Her eyes seemed to say, "If I'd known, I would have cut ties with you, Mom." Jake brushed her off coldly. Wait a minute." My mother-in-law's eyes darted to my stomach. As a mother herself, she was quick to pick up on things. But if she had noticed my loss of appetite sooner, maybe things would have turned out differently. It's her fault for being so focused on harassing me. "Let's go home, Michelle, okay?" Taking the hand my husband extended, I slowly got up while, "Wait, I'm sorry, Jake." "It was just a moment." Jake coldly brushed her off. "I'm not the one you need to apologize to us." My mother-in-law glanced at me. Her eyes were full of hatred, and I didn't want to accept an apology from such a person, so I spoke up first. "I can't trust you anymore. After being betrayed by a mother-in-law I had believed in, I can't let such a person meet my precious child. Goodbye." With a cry of agony, my mother-in-law collapsed on the floor. Without glancing back, we left my husband's parents' house with my father-in-law seeing us off. I don't think we'll ever return here. It's odd to say this myself, but if only they cherished a daughter-in-law who loved her mother-in-law, the mother-in-law could have enjoyed a peaceful life as a grandmother surrounded by her grandchildren. What a foolish person. Later, when I explained the situation to my friends and parents who had given me pamphlets, I was met with responses like, "Finally, you've realized it and let it out," sighs of relief. Apparently, everyone but me had realized the bullying, but they hadn't been able to speak up. Because I was genuinely worried, it seems they had been preparing evidence and documents so that they could testify. When I finally realized what was going on, I felt pathetic and embarrassed. My face turned bright red. In fact, thanks to the wealth of evidence everyone had prepared, I was able to prove what I had been genuinely worried about. As a result, my husband and father-in-law have fully sided with me. I truly felt how blessed I have been with the people around me. A year later, I am busy every day taking care of my newborn son. Today, we are celebrating the baby's first half-birthday, so I'm working hard to prepare a special meal for the family. My husband is doing a great job as a dad, comforting our son and changing diapers. In the midst of this, I get a call on my phone from my father-in-law. I invited him to the baby's party, so I answered the phone without hesitation, thinking he must have something to ask. However, the person on the other end of the line, trying to gauge my mood with a haunted voice, was, of course, not my father-in-law. Even after a year, I can tell it's my mother-in-law. After declaring my break from the family, I moved to a place far away and only told my father-in-law our new address. I blocked my mother-in-law's number and had her remove my number from her phone. Thanks to my husband and father-in-law acting as barriers, I was not ambushed at the hospital when I gave birth, and I have been able to spend truly peaceful days. Is she planning to ruin that? Just knowing that my mother-in-law was on the other side of the phone was enough to give me goosebumps. Where's my father-in-law? He's in the bathroom right now. Hey, you're having your baby's first party today, right? It seems she guessed from the festive preparations my father-in-law was hurriedly making. My husband seems to realize who is on the phone from my tone and gestures with a worried look on his face that he will take the call. But I made an okay sign with my finger and continued the call. I'm a mother now, too. The time when I was a pure and cute daughter-in-law is over. Hey, Michelle, I'm really sorry about what happened. I must have been out of my mind to do something so mean. I'm really sorry. So will you let me see my grandchild soon? I'll buy him lots of cute clothes and toys. Right. Well, no need for toys. They might be rigged with needles or bugs. I wouldn't do such a terrifying thing, but you did make me eat that stuff. That's an exaggeration. It wasn't that bad. Consuming too much salt, sugar, or mold can harm your body, but look, I'm really sorry. You're kind, Michelle. You understand, right? Yes, people often say I'm kind. Right, but I'm not kind. I'm just naive and trust people too much. But once I'm betrayed, I can never trust again. So I will never trust you again, and I will never forgive you. I will absolutely never let you meet my dear son. Wait, Michelle. Hey, what are you doing? On the other end of the phone, I could hear my father-in-law's angry voice and my mother-in-law's screams quietly. I pressed the end call button. Sorry about my mom, but you've become strong, Michelle. My husband sighed in relief, placing his hand on my shoulder, praising me. Of course, I'm this kid's mom after all. Our son, happily lunging in his crib, flapped his hands excitedly when he saw me. I responded to his gestures by picking him up and nuzzling my cheek against his small, soft body, the faint scent of milk on his lips, his pure black eyes reflecting me. Just having my son around fills me with overwhelming protectiveness and maternal love. To protect him, I could become a shield or even a demon. The days of being a knave, kind-hearted daughter-in-law are over. Something smells good. The roast in the oven should be about done. Looking forward to it. Aha! Our son, who doesn't understand anything, responded joyfully, making us both smile. Days of being unaware of people's malice were carefree and happy, but that was because the people around me were protecting me. So now it's my turn to protect my family. I resolved to become stronger, so these peaceful days